Infinity War and Endgame turned the MCU on its head in a huge way. We're miles from what we've known, but there's one question on everyone's mind. Are these beloved characters really gone for good, or could they somehow make a comeback? Hey guys, welcome back to The Binger. Saying goodbye to Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, and a host of other characters was tough. These guys were the beating heart of the MCU, so imagining life without them is difficult. However, what if there's hope for some of them? What if it's not as final as we thought? Let's take a look at how the Avengers we lost could be coming back in Phase 4. When Infinity War burst onto our screens, we really didn't think things could get any worse. Thanos kicked the collective butt of our favorite characters so hard he left burn marks. No one could take down the Purple Brute no matter how hard they tried. Of course, if you ask us, Thor could have just aimed at his dang head and then maybe it could have all been avoided. With half of all life turned to dust, we automatically assumed that Endgame would be about how the remaining Avengers saved the day. And it was, but there were some more permanent losses that were still not over. No amount of Cheetos in the world or Olive Garden breadsticks could help this heartbreak. Tony Stark was taken from us. It happened. We're not over it. Some fans preempted it while others said it would never happen. After all, Iron Man as a character is a giant dollar sign to Disney and Marvel Studios. Why oh why would they do away with one of their biggest assets? That logic proved to be vastly wrong, but it still makes the mind boggle. Although the story is important to the fans and Marvel Studios honors that, they're in it for the cash money. This is one of the main reasons why it's likely that Iron Man will pop up again in the future. We could be wrong, but as Iron Man is such an important part to the MCU, it seems bizarre to let him go. In the comic books, he gets resurrected several times, so the door is technically open. However, the MCU tries to keep things a little bit more on the believable side. At least as believable as you can be in a world where a giant green monster and a hammer-swinging lightning god exist. If Tony doesn't get outwardly resurrected, then he could come back as a sort of artificial intelligence. He appeared as a hologram in his final scene in Endgame, but we're talking beyond just an image. His genius and technical skill are invaluable to the world, so what if Tony uploaded his consciousness into the computer somehow? He spent his life working on programs that really do come across as human, like Friday and Jarvis. Let's not forget that Vision was born from that background too. It's not so nuts of a theory that it wouldn't work. Plus, if Tony is an AI and not a physical form, it would free Downey Jr. up for other projects. If that's what he wants, of course. Gwyneth Paltrow has admitted that she is done playing Pepper, so this could be a good out for her too. If it's just Tony as an AI but not the actual Tony, then she wouldn't feel the need to stick around. To her, it would just be a computer, not her husband. You can't have marriage with a screen. In theory, this could be said for any of the fallen characters in the MCU. In the comics, time travel is as common as reading the paper on a Sunday morning. Well, if this were the 50s and no one had smartphones. Let's try that again. Time travel is as common as scrolling through your Facebook feed on a Sunday morning. Time travel wasn't introduced into the MCU until Endgame when Ant-Man proposes the idea. Tony figures out a way that they can do it, and before you know it, they're saving the world. In the process, a few things go awry. Thanos gets hold of present-day Nebula and employs the help of still enthralled Nebula to find the stones. They travel to the present, and along with them comes a past version of Gamora. Our Green Goddess helps the rest of the gang defeat her father, but she doesn't remember anything. She hasn't done anything yet. She hasn't met Quill or the Guardians, and this is basically the first really good thing that she's done. Gamora is still back though, pulled from her timeline into this one, so there is hope for her. It's exciting, especially as Guardians Volume 3 is a part of Phase 4. If Gamora can come back from the past, then there's no reason to say that Natasha, aka Black Widow, won't. The reason we're focusing on Natasha in particular for a time travel scenario is down to the following reasons. We already know that Scarlett Johansson is filming a standalone movie. While it's rumored to be a prequel, that's risky business. It's really hard for audiences to invest in a character they already know has bitten the dust. There has to be some hint or clue that she's going to return or be spared from her fate. Think about it, as much as we want to know about her past, watching her in dangerous situations when you know that she gets out isn't anywhere near as thrilling. That's the first reason. Secondly, Natasha is one of the only main female characters in the MCU. Marvel Studios are busy working on this and pushing out more female-led movies, but it's a slow process. Taking Black Widow out of the equation completely wouldn't be a good look. Thirdly, typically standalone movies come in threes. Iron Man and Captain America have got 3 apiece, while Spider-Man and Ant-Man currently have 2. Disney likes to milk their cash cows. If the first Black Widow movie is a success, which it probably will be, then they'll make more. The easiest way for them to bring Natasha back would be to use the time travel loophole. This could make for some interesting confrontation if she's pulled out from a period when she's still an assassin. Even though Steve Rogers did manage to make it out of Endgame alive, we still consider him a loss. He was one of the leading members of the Avengers, so now that he's not going to be around, there's a hole. After returning the stones to where they belong in their places in time, Cap is supposed to get back to his timeline. The devious little scamp doesn't come back at all. Instead, he goes back in time and keeps his date with Peggy. It makes sense as Cap was never really happy in this time frame. He didn't understand a lot of the things that happened and everyone he loved was gone. The only visits he got with Peggy were heartbreaking as she couldn't always remember who he was. He was always brooding and rarely smiling, but he carried on fighting the good fight regardless. So when Cap returns to the current timeline as a really old but happy man, it was bittersweet. Fans knew that he had lived a brilliant life, but he was suddenly gone from the MCU. Sure, he's still alive, which is great, but since he handed his shield over to Falcon, he's retired. Most of us assumed that this is it for Captain America. He's done for good. That's probably true. It's a brilliant conclusion to his story and one that seems right and genuine. However, Cap has a lot of skills and expertise that he could pass on to Sam. After all, Sam is relatively new to the game and could do with a few pointers, especially if he's going to be the next Cap. It's more than just a mantle, it's an entire persona that comes with a lot of responsibility. Getting rid of 3 major Avengers, Iron Man, Black Widow, and Captain America is a huge thing. Sure, it opens the doors for others to step up and fill their boots, but is that realistic? Wouldn't it make a world of sense to keep Cap on in some sort of advisory capacity? Having him appear as the occasional mentor of Sam and the rest of the team would work. Cap's involvement would give a nod to times past and the last 10 years of the MCU while also propelling it into the future. What more could you ask for? Plus, Chris Evans isn't about to say no to that paycheck. He's got a dog to support, dang nabbit. Loki, he's the best of the best, isn't he? The God of Mischief was crushed by Thanos' mighty hand at the start of Infinity War while trying to protect his brother. Luckily for fans everywhere, he seemingly makes a return in Endgame. While the Avengers are trying to get the stone from his scepter, he escapes in the midst of the chaos. So there is a version of Loki that is out there alive and well. That version of the character hasn't evolved into the good guy that we know and love though, so what could he be up to? It's been confirmed that the character is getting his own solo show, but it's difficult to say how it will play out. According to director Joe Russo, Loki will have created his own timeline and even a breached reality. It's great to know that we'll be seeing more of our man, but the rest is a mystery. There are reports that Thor's brother will return to the MCU after the Disney Plus series has played out. There are rumors that Cap will appear in the limited series too. Cap was tasked with putting all the stones back from the moment in time that they left. In order to do that, he would have to pursue Loki, who teleported with the Space Stone. The directors admit that it all gets very complicated, but it would have been impossible for Cap to do his job without finding Loki. That being said, we've got a basic idea of how Loki is going to explode back onto our screens. Anything past the series gets a little blurry, but whatever he gets up to, it's gonna be epic. This is Loki! Tom Hiddleston has become a firm fan favorite, so who knows? He might even get a movie all his own one day. Vision was one of the unluckiest characters in Infinity War. Just as Scarlet Witch was done destroying the Mind Stone, Thanos came along and undid all of her hard work. The end result was Vision on the scrap heap and Wanda utterly devastated. The android-esque character could still have a bright future though. In fact, similarly to Loki, we know he's coming back. A Disney Plus series about the unlikely couple is set to go into their story a little bit more. WandaVision will be just a few episodes long, but could answer a lot of questions. In the comics, one storyline sees Vision get destroyed, but Hank Pym leaps to the rescue and rebuilds him. Pym is a Tony Stark level genius, and if Tony isn't around to do it, then Pym could pick up the slack. That is, if Tony himself doesn't return in some capacity. It wasn't all smooth sailing though. Reconstructing something that is essentially an artificial intelligence is tricky. Pym bases Vision's brain patterns on another hero, Wonder Man, who is less than impressed with the whole scenario. Harboring a secret love for Wanda himself, Wonder Man was reluctant to give up his brain patterns entirely. If he did, he would have risked making his own feelings known. Pym does what he can with what he's got, but the new Vision is miles away from the last. The OG was caring, loyal, and totally in love with Wanda. This new guy basically has no soul and doesn't feel the way everyone expects him to. To symbolize this, he goes from the deep crimson red to stark white. Eagle-eyed fans will remember that after he passed in Infinity War, Vision's body also went white. If that's not a setup, then what is? When he's brought back for the series, it's likely that he'll pop up again in the MCU. Well, that's all we got for you this time around. What are your thoughts? Who do you see coming back for Phase 4? Let us know by dropping a comment in the section below. And before you go, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and press subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest releases. Until next time, thanks for watching.